Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. End of September. That's different. Enjoyed this month. You know, some of the pens are quite pretty. Some of them, I've got to be honest, I think I would struggle to take out into a business meeting though. Join me now, down on the mat. We'll take a final look at the pens and we'll give them a ranking. Here we are down on the mat. Let's jump on in. Take a look at the pen that I've put at position number 6 for this month. That goes to the Dian N7. I like the looks of this pen. You know, we've got this nice, it's meant to be a peacock tail, I think. Nice motif there on the cap. I really like the colouring of this. It's a piston filler. We've got an ink window there. Looks like we've still got a little bit of blue ink in. I'll have to give this another clean out. This pen's now empty. Got an interesting two-tone nib. Again, quite like that. It's number 6 nib. In terms of size, it's not too bad. Maybe a little bit on the short side, but it's livable for me. It's comfortable to hold, comfortable to write with. So why have I put it in at position number 6? Let me just fetch in this. This is a rodeo notebook. If you see my shorts videos, this is actually from my shorts videos. I don't like this mainly because the line it puts down. The nib, it's a fine nib. That's the only option there was. And I found for me, I just didn't enjoy using it as much as I did the other pens. It's still nice. It's still a nice pen to use. The Diamine Yuletide, again, because I think the nib was so narrow, we didn't really see much in the way of character coming through in the writing. And to be honest, that's the only reason that I've put it down. It's down to the nib. And that's, to be honest, the only reason I've knocked this down. It's a personal choice, but for me, the nib, just too fine. It's actually quite a wet writer when you're considering that it's a fine nib. There's no scratchiness to it. It does write nice and smoothly. But I have to store these. So for this month, I'm putting that as position number 6. And that goes to the Dian N7. Position number 5. So again, I've had to think long and hard about this one. I've decided it goes to the Fuliwen 017. I love the colouring of this. I think it's really nice. It's really bright. Not a pen you could really take into a professional setting, but I did know that when I bought it. If we take a look at the nib, we've got another number 6 nib. All one colour. I do prefer two-tone nibs. I think they look nicer. Size-wise, it's slightly longer than we were seeing with the Dian. Nice, comfortable section. Fits nicely in my hand. Reason I've knocked this down is I had some issues when I was writing. So with the nib, what I was finding is it just would write, and then after a few lines, it just stopped writing. And then occasionally I'd also find that there'd be like a little bit of ink starvation. It'd still write, but it'd be a very pale line. What I did is actually pulled out the nib and I gave it a really good clean, popped it back in, didn't change the ink, and after that it wrote really nicely. This one, we've got a cartridge converter in there. Still got a little bit of ink as well left over from the month. Let's look at the writing. So again, on that rhodia paper, here's the writing we've got. It's a lovely blue colour. I really like this Australian sky blue colour. You know, it does remind me, if I look out the window and look at the sky, that's the blue it reminds me of. Really nice. This is after I cleaned it out, so we're not seeing any of the issues on here. But other than that flow issue, that's the only thing really which I'm knocking it down for. But again, I have to give these scores. So I'm going to give this Fuliwen position number 5. So that's the Fuliwen 017. We're now getting into a little bit of the nitty gritty. I'm going to move the paper up a bit, so we've got the final 4 pens there, hopefully on the same page. Position number 4. I've had to think about this because position 1 and 2, they were very close. Position 3 and 4, also very close. I ended up going for, at position 4, the Retro 51 Tornado. I love this copper colour. Now, I've only had this 2, maybe 3 months, and although it's not tarnishing, what I'm seeing is I think there's more black coming here in the body where I've got these little lines. They certainly seem to be more evident, and I think that's down to being used. The pen feels a little bit on the thin side, which is one of the reasons why I've put this in at position number 4. Again, I had a few issues with the nib. Certainly when I was using the Diamine Vintage Copper, what I was finding is that the nib would be getting blocked. Now, this Vintage Copper has got a copper shimmer in it. And one of the things I've noticed with this pen, I wasn't seeing that shimmer very often. And, I was agitating the pen. I'd agitated the ink. So I was doing everything I can to try and get that shimmer in there. It just wasn't coming through. Here we've got the Vintage Copper writing. Again, this is on that Rhodia notepad. So you can see here, there's absolutely none of that shimmer coming through. And that was on 2 pages of writing. Which is a shame because I was hoping that the copper and the copper would look really well together. So after I finished that Vintage Copper, I pulled out the nib, gave it a really good clean, tried to get rid of as much of that shimmer as I possibly could. And then I filled it with Diamine Oxblood. This, I really like the combo. I've done a number of pages now with it, had no issues with writing, no issues with the flow. I love here, like you can see, all this line variation. It really comes out naturally because it's got that 1.1 nib. This is another pen. It's a cartridge converter. Got loads of that Oxblood left in there. I really like this combo. I'm thinking of cleaning this pen out, even though there's a load of ink left in it, because I want to use it as part of my Christmas pens. So the pens I'm going to be using in December. I'm going to be doing another Use Me Up month in November, so I might fetch it in and use it in that instead. But really nice. Like the pen, bit on the thin side, as I say. That's one of the detractions. And then the issue I had when writing with that Vintage Copper. Again, one of the detractions. So for that reason, this is going to come in at position number 4. So that's the Retro 51 Tornado. Position number 3. That's gone to the Ranga Model 5, the big boy. This pen is big. I'm going to fetch in my Lamy AL Star. This is the pen that I use for writing my scores with. Just look at the difference there in size. I mean, most people were aware of how big the AL Star is. The Ranga is so big. If I take the cap off, it's wide. That section very, very wide. This is so comfy to use. My fingers just sit there. It's got this nice wide lip at the bottom. They just rest nicely. The length is really good. Really like this pen. At the start of the month, I started off with Dominant Industry Forest. I love this ink in this pen. Just going to fetch the pen in. I just think they look so nice. Maybe the ink is a little bit too dark for parts of the greens, but then there are some darker tones in there. I like this ink. It's very nice. It's very wet. If we look here, we're looking at a minute to be dry. 30 seconds almost, so it's not too bad. When I'm writing with it, it does feel fairly wet, as if there's some nice lubrication in there. Really enjoyed writing with that. Later in the month, if I get to the right page, there we go, we're going to jump forward. When that Dominant Industry Forest ink ran out, I thought, let's try a different colour. So I put in Robert Oster Vine Leaf. It's a nice bright colour, lots of shading coming through, but I just find that this ink, it's very dry and it feels dry when I'm writing, so it's not as nice an experience. I mean, it's okay. I just don't think I'll put this ink in this pen again. The pen, got lots of threads on this. The pen does come with a cartridge converter, which is what I've got in there. As you see, I've still got a little bit of that vine leaf in there as well. It's such a nice pen to hold. I know I've said that already, but to me, if it wasn't for the fact that the next two pens are just so nice, I would have given this number 1. Really enjoyable. So for that reason, this comes in at position number 3. Position number 2. Well, the next 2 pens, well, we can actually see here. Let me just move this up ever so slightly. Let's get these more central. So we've only got 2 pens left. We've got either the Benu Talisman or the Narwhal 365, which is in the Nautilus shape. I've really struggled to pick between the 2 of them. Someone suggested on my half-time report maybe I should have a tie. I was so tempted to do that, but then I thought, no, come on Gary, let's pick of the 2 which one you think should be position 1 and which one should be 2. And I've been flip-flopping around this for maybe 2 weeks, and I've got to be honest, if you ask me tomorrow, it could be a different story. Position 2, I decided goes to the Benu Talisman. This is in the Dragon's Blood pattern. I really love this. It's such a nice pen. You know, we've got greens, we've got reds, we've got the black. And to me, the sparkles on this, they're not really in your face like a lot of Benu pens are. Let's take a look with the cap off. So the cap comes off. The pen is nice. It doesn't feel too short, it doesn't feel too long. The section maybe could do with being a little bit wider, but I'm being extremely picky there. It's still comfortable to use. The nib is a Schmidt nib. Again, number 6 size nib. I think I've only got another one, might have another 2 Schmidt nib pens, but this is so nice. It's another one where we've got a cartridge converter. This is currently empty. I've gone through 2 different inks in this pen this month. Why it's now empty, I was very tempted to refill it. But this is a pen, just got to look at the colours. It's Christmas colours. I want to use this pen throughout the whole of December as part of December's pens in use. That's why, I thought, yeah, let's give it a rest for a couple of months so I can use up some of my other pens. Look at the writing. So the first ink we had was Pure Pen's John Frost. One of the things I did notice is, you can see here on the P and the John and the F and the T, I was getting little tiny bits of railroading with this. Hopefully we can see with the ink, it's this glorious, like a tealy type green colour. Then I'm not sure if the camera will capture this, but there is a nice red sheen as well. It's not an in-your-face sheen, but it's there and it comes out and it really does fetch the writing to life. So I finished writing off with that and then I swapped it over. I'm going to move that one Rhodia book out. I actually filled a book last month. And what I did is I filled this Benu with Colorverse Sea of Tranquility. I thought I'd just give this a try. It's a sample I've had and it's been sat there for well over a year. I thought, come on Gary, let's give this a bash. Wow, do I like this ink. It's green. That's going to be a big plus anyway. But look at all the shading that's coming through. So nice. I want to try this ink in a different pen to see if the shading is a result of the pen or maybe if it's the ink. Not sure when I'll do that though. Really like the tone of this. It's not a bright green. It's not like a forest green. It's just really nice. I'm not going to say muted because, there's definitely some tone to it, but it's not one of those in-your-face greens. I love the name as well, Sea of Tranquility. So for all those reasons, I've decided that the Benu, that comes in at position number 2. So this was the Benu Talisman in the Dragon's Blood pattern. So that means position number 1 goes to the Narwhal or Narwhal 365. This is the 2021 edition. This has the Cano Cristales and it uses Jonathan Brooks Primary Manipulation 3.5 resin. I love the looks of this. I know I always say it, it's the prettiest pen I've got. Ever so nice. I like the Narwhal shape. I find the Narwhal pens maybe a little bit on the short side, but not enough to bother me. But nice width there in the section. Comfortable to use, comfortable to hold. I do find longer writing sessions, this lip here at the bottom, that does dig into my fingers a little bit. I really like that section bottom that we see on the Ranga. That's nice and wide, but the pen's so big, you've got the room for that. This is really nice. Single coloured nib, like a goldy colour. It's a steel nib. This one is a piston filler. I'm not going to work the mechanism because I don't want ink everywhere. Unlike the Nautilus versions, which have got those round portholes to see the ink, here we've got this ink window. I'm being picky. I'd like to see that ink window a little bit wider. I do find I struggle to see much through it anyway. Yes, I can see there's ink there, but when I'm trying to see what the level is, it's not as easy as I would hope. Fetching our writing. So, start of the month, I had Diamine Ancient Copper, which I think is a really good match for the bulk of the orange colour that's in this pen. Really nice. Enjoyed writing with this. Did run out part way through the month, as you can see here, which is on the page I've brought as my example. I got one page where it was starting to go, but it was still writing nicely, still seeing this nice shading. But then on the second page here, you can see virtually out of ink. Next one, just completely gone. So I changed it. I didn't change it for this gold coloured ink. It was just that was the nearest pen I had to hand when it ran out. What I did change it for is this one. This is, well, you can tell it's a nice purple ink. This is Diamine Festive Joy, part of the 2021 ink event calendar. Here we can see on this pen we do have some purples, especially up here on the cap. So that's what I used to drive this choice. Beauty with this pen, look, with all the different colours, you can have virtually any colour ink in here. Even this green, I think the green, that might be worth trying that vine leaf with. Not seeing as much shading as I was with the Ancient Copper. It's still a nice ink though, still looks nice. It writes nice. We can see here, it's a definite medium nib. And I think that's one of the things I like with this pen. It's just, it writes, it's consistent. I don't have to worry about hard starts, I don't have to worry about skips. Had no issues with the nib. For all these reasons, this comes in at position number 1. So this was the Narwhal or the Narwhal 365. Just going to turn over the page and we'll take a look at the 2 extra pens that I brought in this month. So the 2 pens that I brought in, we've got the Narwhal Key West Los Colorados and the Narwhal Key West Isla Mirada. The purple version, broad nibbed, the gold version, medium nibbed. But when I'm looking at this, both the lines seem the same width to me. And they also both seem to be wider than what we saw a minute ago when we were looking at the 365. So I would say, to me, I think both of these nibs are more like to be broad nibs than medium. Let's look at some writing with it though. So with the Key West purple, that had Van Diemen Twilight Mist. I've really struggled with this ink. I've tried it in lots of different pens and I don't know what it is. I just can't get any character from it. I'm going to keep going. I'm determined to find a pen that writes nice with this ink. I think there should be some kind of shimmer in there. I've never seen it in any of the pens. Not even this, as I say, where we've got a broad nib. The reason why I brought the yellow pen in, this one ran out and I didn't want to fill it up again. So I swapped over to the golden version, and in there is Colorverse Martian. There's just something about Colorverse inks, I just find that they behave so well for me. Again, look here, look at all the shading that we're seeing coming through. I really like it. Again, to me, this is looking more like a broad nib. Let me go backwards a couple of days. Just got to try and find the right one. If I turn it like this, here we've got the 365, which has got a medium. Here we've got the Key West with a medium. And to me, this Key West line is a lot wider than what we're seeing on the 365. I like that because I like broader nibs anyway. But it was quite interesting to see, a broad and a medium that were writing more or less the same, at least to my eyes. So these were the pens that I brought in. I'm now going to clear this off and we'll fetch in all the pens for one final look. So here we've got all the pens. We've got a Dian N7. We've got the Fuliwen 017, the Retro 51 Tornado, which looks so small when you compare it to the Ranga Model 5, the Benu Talisman, the Narwhal 365, and then the 2 Narwhal Key Wests. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. How would you rank some of these pens? Have you got some of them? What do you think about them? Have you seen the same issues and the same benefits that I have of these pens? Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.